What is the most used man-made material on Earth? You guessed right. It's concrete. Look around. It's everywhere. Sidewalks, driveways, foundations, floors you stand on, and even entire buildings are made out of concrete. So why don't we discuss it more? In each episode of Concrete Logic, we will explore one concrete-related topic with the help from industry professionals that are shaping the future of the trade. We'll talk with suppliers, contractors, architects, engineers, specialists, and even some proponents of competing materials about their views of concrete and their vision of its future. And welcome to another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. And today I have Jim Klinger with American Society of Concrete Contractors, ASCC, as most of you all know. Jim, can you give a little introduction?
Hi, Seth. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on as a guest. I really appreciate it. My name is Jim Klinger. I work with ASCC. I'm a hotline operator. Um, I come from a long line of esteemed previous operators, Dr. Ward Malish and Dr. Bruce Supernaut. So I'm gonna on my LinkedIn feed, I list myself as an apprentice because that's those are big shoes to fill, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, ASCC, American Society of Concrete Contractors, we are a nonprofit organization. We exist for concrete contractors to help each other out, to have each other's back, to educate each other, all in service to the owner, who is the ultimate authority. We want the owner to be happy with the end product and to invite us back for another project. So everything is in service to the owner.
Yeah, because we all want to deliver our best, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what ASCC helps out. I think the thing that y'all are known for are your position statements. I know I was sharing with you before we hit record that I've used them. I've learned from other people how to leverage the position statements in RFIs and submittals and pre-construction meetings. They're very useful tools, and they're very eye opening for um, not only concrete contractors, but mainly for general contractors and owners who don't think about specifically, at least in my experience, the coordination between divisions of the trades. So, you know, what are the um, what are the coordination issues between we've on the podcast on previous podcast episodes we've talked about flooring and the floor adhesive and things of that nature, and how those things impact what you're doing when you're putting the concrete deck down, and things you need to think about before you do that, and with anchor bolts and things of that nature. So no, much is appreciated from the concrete guys with the ASCC position statements for sure. Uh, y- could you tell us about how the position statements, how they came about? What's the origin of them?
Okay, so before I do that, just a brief explanation of what's going on here. You know, we're in a very chaotic world and a chaotic industry, concrete industry. And if you look at all of the players, all the stakeholders that we have to deal with all the time, you've got suppliers, engineers, lawyers, architects, inspectors, associations, owners, contractors, universities, governments, podcasters, right? All of these entities are uh, working every day and changing. And if a change happens in one, may or may not have a ripple effect that could go across the entire industry. So it's constantly changing. It's like a flux. Like you have, how many people are going to retire today, and what is that going to have? What effect will that have on the industry? How many people will have their first project today, and what effect will that have? So the position statement is a it's a static document um, that it's constant, and it's a reminder for all of the stakeholders of who they are, where they need to be, and what they need to have with them when they get there, and who's paying for that. What's the cost involved? So, and the position statement is not something coming from a disgruntled contractor or somebody that's just trying to pull something over on an owner's eyes. They're fairly well accomplished people preparing these things. They're all accomplished engineers, PhDs, college professors. They use industry backup and data to back up what's on that position statement. So let's give an example here. The genesis was
Jim, before we jump in there too, I would think it, we want to mention too, don't we, that it's not these position statements. They're not coming just from concrete contractors, right? They're coming from folks that are in other trades. So it's like it's a collaboration paper almost. Is that a fair statement?
well, they're issued by the ASCC. Usually, I think almost all of them are published in ACI, American Concrete Institute. So you have that, call it participation. There are other organizations that have been listed on our position statements. That's the one that we were talking about earlier, which is position statement number 6, which has to do with Division 3 versus Division 9 floor tolerances. And that's kind of what got the whole thing started. That was part of the genesis way back in the, right around the turn of the century, right? There was some issues going on with the flooring people. It was maple floors. I believe it was at a university gymnasium, and the contractor had poured the slab on grade. And some months later, the maple flooring guy showed up and was complaining that the surface of the concrete wasn't good enough for his use. The substrate wasn't acceptable. So there was as is usual, there was a job site argument about it, and it turned out that this might have been around the time where they started using F numbers. And the concrete contractor would say, okay, Mr. Owner, I'm going to give you this quality of, this is the F number. And the flooring guy is saying, well, F those F numbers. We don't know what that is. We're dealing with an eighth under a 10-foot straight edge. I mean, and can you blame them? I mean, they're the guy that's coming in 9 months later, which is nothing abnormal about that. And they don't care what the concrete guy did, right? So there was a fundamental
Right.
bust between the two trades, neither which is either one's fault, right? So the slab is placed, the F numbers are checked, say within 72 hours. 9 months later, the flooring guy shows up, and the slab is not where it was the day those F numbers were checked. Neither one of those things is either one of those guys' fault, but they're the ones that are going to end up fighting with each other at the table, probably getting the owner involved at the end of the job. So it turned out that Mike Snyder of Baker got together, and I think at the time Bruce Supernaut was actually working for Baker, and he ended up writing the first position statement, and then that was published in ACI Concrete International back around 2003, something like that. And we're up to like 40, 46 of them now. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. That's
an effort to reconcile something that's a no fault issue, really, um, and educate people. That owner would never have known
right.
what's going on there.
Yeah, because each the concrete guy's got his tolerances. So we were talking about floor flatness and floor levelness, right? And he has to meet those within that 72-hour period. And then the flooring guy, he's got his own tolerances and his own expectation, but he doesn't come out like in that example. They don't come out till near the end of the job because who wants to put down that nice maple floor down while all the other stuff is going on, the structure and things are going on. So
So the solution that was arrived at, and got the blessing from all of the follow-on trades, the flooring people, the tile people, the block people, whatever the trades were, was to sit down with the owner and say, look, Mr. Owner, this is what comes with the territory when you build with concrete. It's going to move. It's a natural product. There's nothing that anybody can do about it. There are things that the contractor can do to have a good quality product, and the same thing with the wood flooring guy. But if 9 months later the flooring guy needs to do some grinding or needs to do some patching or something before his product can go down, that's something you need to cover with an allowance. So at bid time, set aside some dollars, set aside an allowance that you may or may not have to spend. But this shouldn't be a battle between two subcontractors when neither one of these issues is really theirs to do anything about. So that's our position statement number 6 in a nutshell. Was, Mr. Owner, this is all natural. It's nobody's fault. Please carry an allowance. That'll settle the dispute.
yeah, and it's did you get any pushback initially from this from outside the concrete industry? Like, how were the I guess originally how were the position statements um, viewed from folks outside the concrete industry? Do you have any insight on that?
I don't really. I know that there are. Let me give you another example. So we have position statement 17, free fall of concrete. Now you go look in any spec, and you're going to find in there in Division 3 somewhere, free fall of concrete not to exceed 5 feet or 6 feet or whatever. It's in almost
Mhm.
every spec I've ever seen, and nowhere in ACI does it limit the amount of free fall. And somewhere, I believe it was the Federal Highway Administration, had the opportunity to take apart a bunch of drilled piers that were maybe 100 and some feet long, where the concrete had free fallen down through the rebar cage and whatever. And at the end of it all, didn't make a hill of beans. So now you can go. We have a position statement, and we say, look, here's data. Here's an independent agency, a government agency that's done a study. This is what they found, and and then on a project, what's a typical column height that you're going to free fall? Let's say when you pour a column or a wall, 10 feet story height. So
Not 160 or whatever that
yeah,
pier was.
right. So the other thing is, I know on some jobs out here on the West Coast, we have a really congested shear wall in SCC. You do a mock up, and then we take a core at the bottom of the wall just to see, just to make sure. And the last one that we did, it was beautiful. There was no segregation whatsoever. So and something like that, though, you would get pushback from, I don't know, a spec writer or something. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, from engineers, what they learned in school, I would assume a lot of that would be. Yeah, I'm trying to think back of I really haven't had any negative experiences with sharing this information with folks in my career. I think it's eye opening, and a lot of times you're just pointing out differences that are within the spec itself. So it's easily can be shown that, hey, Look at the tolerances in Division 3. Now go flip back to Division 9 and see what that says. Do these two things line up? They don't line up. That's what this paper is pointing out. Uh, so yeah, I can't recall someone saying this is not helpful. I think it brings things to light, and at least a discussion can be had, and hopefully, it's being had before the work is done. I think the worst thing is when you pull one of these out after the work is done, and
Well,
then you're
therein
it,
lies the value of the pre-construction and the collaboration and so on. But what these position statements are, again, they're educational tools, and they're prepared by guys with PhDs and fairly well accomplished people, college, like Bruce or Ward or similar. The other thing is that I think from the design side, I think there's not a lot of awareness of where the designer needs to be. It's their job to understand all of the materials that they're putting in a building and the tolerances of all those materials, what they do, how those materials behave, and then to coordinate those. And so ACI has ACI 117 tolerances, but they also have 117.1, which is tolerance compatibility. And in that document, they spell out all of the responsibilities of all the stakeholders, who's supposed to do what. And then there's several sections in there that give examples of concrete and structural steel, concrete and the elevator guy, concrete and the window guy, concrete and the block guy, concrete and the ADA guy, concrete and the curtain wall guy. All of those different, there's examples of what the ACI tolerance is for the concrete guy and what their tolerance is, and then suggestions on how to make those compatible, what to talk about at a pre-construction meeting, that kind of thing. So, and that document, I don't know that many engineers are aware of. I know we certainly, when I take a hotline call, I refer to that document quite often as something for the concrete contractor to take back to the design team and say, look, guys, nothing personal, but this was on you to figure out during the design phase. And, this is where you need to be. And then where I need to be as a contractor is I need to build to the tolerance or better, right? That's on me as the builder to do. But it kind of spells out where each stakeholder needs to be. And then from there, you should be able to find out who's paying for what, right?
yeah,
Because if there's a
yeah. I
dispute,
think
it's about dollars, right? It's about
yeah, it always is.
the way you got to look at this is when I learned coming up was there's four basic rules, and this kind of like informal at ASCC, but the first is safety, right? You want to work safe. The second is you want to have fun. You don't want to be driving home mad. You don't want to be, hating life for your most of your waking hours. You want to make money, and then you want to keep the money that you just got done making. You don't want to get back charged. You don't want to get a warranty call. You don't want somebody telling you that your work's not good enough and now you owe them cash. So that's the kind of philosophy that we have. Those things.
Yeah, yeah, and these position statements are a good tool to have to help you in that direction. Do you is this you have the hotline? You have these papers. Um, do you is do when folks call you, are there particular position statements that come up over and over again, or is it kind of across the board with your
Oh,
experience so
usually,
far?
usually the calls that I get are um, the my slab is cracked, and the owner says it's my fault. How do I deflect that? How do I explain to him that the that this isn't my issue? Now, you know, there are times when a crack could be the contractor's fault, but not often, right?
Mhm.
So what I usually end up saying is, well, let's take a look at your specs. Does your spec mention ACI 301 or 302? And usually the answer is, well, yeah, it's a slab on grade, and ACI 302 is mentioned. And I say, well, take a look at ACI 302 at the title page, the very title page, before you even get into the document. And there's going to be a several paragraph statement there in italics that basically says to whoever reads this document or designs these slabs, understand this: concrete's a natural product, and it's going to crack, it's going to curl. And, it just comes with the territory. It doesn't mean that there's a structural problem, or, it's just it's probably largely a cosmetic issue, and it's just something that's going to happen. So you're not going to get a crack free structure. You're not going to get a slab that doesn't curl to some, or rarely, let's say. So that would be a case where I'm telling the caller, take a document that's already existing out there and send it on to the design team that should have known that before, before the cracks were questioned. They should know that cracks are normal. It's a normal occurrence. So a lot of the calls I get
Yeah, but
are
it
like that.
seems to be yeah, it seems to be a surprise on every job though. It's like there's a crack, and then there's a lot of discussion and emails and
Hand wringing, right?
debate.
Yeah, hand wringing
Yeah, debates.
at a job site trailer over something like that, or
Yeah,
another one is cracking of a slab on metal deck, and say, guys, well, first of all, that slab on metal deck is not really an ACI. That's a Steel Deck Institute item. So you have to go to their design information, and right in there, it basically says, to the owner, expect the metal deck concrete slab to crack. The day that concrete is poured, it's going to start moving. It's going to shrink. The steel on the metal deck is not. So you're going to have forces in that slab that want to produce cracks. So you're going to have a choice to make, Mr. Owner. You can have a lot of small cracks, or you can have a bunch of big cracks. We just make a photocopy of that and say, okay, send this to your design team. Who should have known this when they designed the job? It's right there in the design manual. So
yeah,
it's an educational thing. A lot of calls I get are like that. Is where can I find information that will help explain to an owner why what we're seeing is not a structural problem, or why am I getting blamed for something that's not my fault. Now,
yeah,
sometimes you have to tell the caller, hey, this is your fault. But a lot of times it's just a matter of tracking down the information. So,
do they hang up the phone and say, "I'm no longer an
oh
ASCC
no,
member" when
no,
you
no,
tell them
no,
that?
no, no, no. Most of these, there's a lot of callers where we save them piles of cash. I know that
Oh yeah, no,
at the recent.
I,
Go ahead.
I was just teasing you. No, yeah, some folks don't want to hear the bad news when it's bad news. I mean, it does happen where we make mistakes. As you're talking through these things and about the coordination issues between the different uh, building materials, it makes me wonder if, and I know the answer, but I'll just ask the question, if designers even think about these things, because the owner is hammering on them, say, hey, this original design, let's say they designed a hotel and it was all cast in place frame, and they get the price and they're like, oh, can't do it for that price. You know what we should do? Let's go get one of those. We'll only do 2 floors of cast in place concrete, and then the rest of it we'll do metal deck. That'll save us some money. So they go out there and they price it, and oh yeah, that's a better price. We like that price better. And then after they build this thing and they get through all this, then you have these issues like you're talking about, where you got the cracking in the slab and the on the metal deck, and you got all these coordination issues and everything. And there's a lot of energy put into coordinating those things and taking care of those problems, when it might have been, I might say, cheaper, or at least less stressful, to build the whole thing in one system instead of putting multiple systems together.
Well, the way around that, and it's something that you're starting to hear more and more. It's called constructability, and that is getting the concrete guy brought in on a project very early on to sit down with the owner and look at all the different options they have, and make suggestions, review plans, and have input into the design very early on into the process. I mean, how often has it been where you're sitting in your office and you get a set of plans and specs that you've never seen before, and a bid date that's 2 weeks out? At that stage in the process, there's very little chance of trying to work through some of the coordination issues that might come up. So then the best you can do, I think, is as soon as you get the job, you call the engineer and get to know them and say, look, we're going to be building your job. We should talk. And then take advantage of the pre-construction meeting, and whatever collaboration is possible, then do it. And I think that's where
Yeah.
the spirit of ACI 301 now, to try to encourage that kind of collaboration early on. I mean, for a lot of times, that's as early as you can get is bid time, because you don't see the documents. Um, how often have you seen where the owner calls the concrete guy in when he's in the cocktail napkin stage? A typical podium, or like a hotel type job, probably not much at all.
Yeah. No, it happens rarely, but does occur. There are some owners out there that it's usually someone that's been in the business, a developer of some sort that's been around for a while and have seen these issues, and they reach out um, to the concrete guy direct. Uh, but that takes some time to build that kind of relationship. But most of the time, yeah, it's here are the drawings, price it, cross your fingers, it's in budget, and then if it's not in budget, then there's some value engineering uh, that typically an engineer or an architect come up with, things that they can remove, and then price those things, and again, cross your fingers, hope that makes the budget.
Yeah, you get a set
And
of
then,
plans and specs. You get a deadline of 2 weeks, and they say any pre-bid RFIs, you got 2 days to get those in, or something. Some incredibly goofy deadline that helps nobody. So
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, the fun projects are when, yeah, you get, I even get just an email and it's a narrative. Hey, we want to build this, and not even a sketch. Those are fun jobs where you can come up and tell them, hey, this is our preferred way of building this, and the discussion starts from there. Those are fun, but 95% of them are, like you said, you get a bid invite, and that's it. That's right now. It's usually a few weeks. You got a few weeks to put a number together and get it over to them. But But maybe we should, like you said, when we get a job, just send them. I don't know if I'd send them all 46 position statements, but I definitely would
Oh
send
no,
them a
no,
handful of these things.
it's just um, you know, I would encourage the contractor to call. Well, I guess the want to do it the right way is just you tell the general contractor, look, we're going to talk to the engineer, and hopefully that because they want to be involved in every conversation. And then there's been projects where you send an RFI to the general contractor and they rewrite it and send it up the food chain, maybe totally changing what you had in mind. You know what I mean? They like to get in the middle of things like that, and that's not the. I don't think that's a good way of doing things. I think the structural engineer and the concrete contractor need to be talking, and more often than not.
Yeah. No, that's when you say that, I think about it about the good projects in the past, and yeah, there was definitely a good relationship between us and the structural engineer.
Yeah, I wouldn't be,
Um, but
wouldn't be sending them position statements unless there's something that comes up in the conversation. It's like, hey, Mr. Engineer, up on the third floor, I think you're going to have a problem up there. Here, let me send you a copy of this position statement that explains to you what the problem is and what can be done to solve it before this becomes a big issue. And again, this is not some disgruntled contractor, trying to pull something over your eyes or whatever. This is something that's been researched, prepared by engineers, just like yourself, right? So
yeah, so yeah, we'll just call Jim and have Jim call the engineer and speak on your behalf.
Well, that's one of the things that members can do is they can call me anytime, and I'll help them any way I can. Now, I don't know that I would call the engineer, but I would let them know what they need to be saying to the design team, and I would help them in any way. But I don't know that I've ever gotten involved actually on a phone call with a design person, but the members, man,
Yeah,
that's what the hotline's all about. And we
yeah.
have we have four hotlines actually for ASCC. We have the concrete, structural concrete, which is me. We have decorative concrete, polished concrete, and safety and insurance
Oh,
hotlines. So not all of the hotline calls are something where there's a problem on a job site or a dispute or something like that and it needs to be handled. This was a case where a lady calls in. She's a contractor. She had a stroke of bad luck. Business went under for a while, and now she's back and she's starting back up. And she wants some help. She wants to make sure that she's doing the right thing, that she's taking the right steps. She's got the payroll right, that kind of thing. And so the answer was, well, sure, we have a mentorship program here for our members, and we ended up hooking her up with a contractor that's somewhere maybe up in Michigan or something like that had a similar issue, and that would be more than willing to help her out. So that's another hotline call that really wasn't structural in nature, but another example of how we help our members out. So if members want to call me on the hotline, it's an 800 number, 1-800-331-0668, or you can email me at jklinger, Klinger, at ascconline.org.
and for folks that aren't members, what's the website that they go to learn more about being a member?
If you go to ascconline.org, and you'll see that there's going to be the current homepage. There's like 4 photographs of different types of concrete construction. There will be tabs across the top. And if you click on the tab that says technical, it'll take you right to the position statements. which are free. I don't think they're free. I don't think they let you print them. There might be a print wall, but you can at least read them. They're free to non-members, anybody.
Yeah.
And in fact, there are a lot of free resources on the website just from the get-go. That's a ASCC
That's
online.
a great Yeah. Great resource. I highly recommend checking it out. Jim, thank you for doing the podcast today. It was a great conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Seth, for inviting me.
Yes, sir. And that concludes another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. I hope you got some value out of that episode and learned a thing or two. If you did, visit our website, concretelogicpodcast.com. Click on the Show Support tab and learn how you could be listed as a producer of an episode. Again, that's concretelogicpodcast.com. Click on Show Support tab to learn how you can support the show. And as always, Mike Dutton will take us out.
Ring, ring, that alarm always sings. Couple hours before the sun comes up. Open up the side, put some diesel in the lights, and wait till the trucks roll up. Yeah, this ain't how most folks live their lives. Dripping in sweat, working overtime. But while they're tying their ties for their 9 to 5s, we're out here changing these skylines with wood, iron, and mud. We work hard for $1, give thanks to the Lord above. Never make a man do something you can't prove. Hard work calls for a drink or two. Expect more, it's written in our blood. With wood, iron, and mud. From the swamps to the city, from the Lone Star heat to the woods of the Georgia pine. Good old boys and girls who ain't afraid of getting dirty for a clean dime. And if you want to see the fire in a grown man's eyes beneath the hot summer sun, find the wild-eyed boys clocking days and nights, working hard to get that job done with wood.